parenting while healing is incredibly challenging. You have the double whammy of trying to raise the next generation differently while at the same time having to do it while you're stuck in your own baggage, in your own issues. And I've been doing this for over 20 years. Here's some of the biggest challenges that I've run into along the way and how I've learned to manage them. It can be really hard to parent effectively when you are in the middle of being triggered or having an emotional flashback. And I've got a whole video on emotional flashbacks if you want to understand in more detail what they are and how they affect you. But basically you're having a strong emotional reaction to something that just happened, whether that's something your kids did or something unrelated to them that happened outside of that. You're having a strong emotional reaction. But honestly, kids almost seem to be put into our lives to push our buttons, to give us these strong emotional reactions. And so it can be really challenging to be an effective parent when we are overwhelmed with these emotions, when we're responding to something that happened to us, and it's not really about the people in front of us right in that moment. I've been triggered many times by my kids. I remember when my son was very little, having an absolute meltdown, a temper tantrum that I'm still embarrassed about to this day because he wouldn't listen to me. He would not put his toys away when I asked him to, and not being listened to is one of my big triggers. And I butted heads many times with my daughter from the time before she could talk until this day because she has a different sense of boundaries. I would ask her to do something or not do something, and she would almost invariably do the opposite of what I asked. And I really struggled with that because I didn't feel safe in my own environment. And so being triggered like this by my kids or by other things is really hard, because how can you be an effective parent when you are in this altered, overwhelmed state? So there's a couple of things that I've learned to do to deal with this particular challenge. And the first one is just to notice that I am triggered, that I am having a flashback, to actually build that self-awareness so that I can understand that this is what's happening right now. And I've got a whole video on how to improve your self-awareness so that you can catch yourself as you have this strong emotional reaction to whatever it is. And the second piece is to actually section that off. So you notice you're having this reaction, but you separate it from what's happening around you. You recognize that this reaction is not really about the people in front of you, and you also recognize that you don't want to dump that on them. So you find a way to take that away from them, to go off, to find space, to give yourself a timeout, to do whatever you need to do to separate that reaction from them, so that the dealing with that and dealing with them as a parent are two separate exercises. And having the courage to recognize that, to dive in to what's going on, and to not just spew it on the people around you. And that can be really challenging. I've also found it really challenging to teach my kids skills that I don't have, to actually build for them experiences and abilities that either I just don't have any experience of, or that I'm not very good at because I just haven't had the practice. Things like feeling safe, regulating emotions, setting boundaries, communicating effectively. And I've got guides on most of those you might want to download if you're trying to improve those skills as you interact with your own kids. But how do we teach our kids skills and experiences that we don't have? And that can be really challenging. And what I've learned through this is the importance of self-care, by which I mean taking the time and space to do the work for myself, whether that is things like journaling and meditation, whether it is working with a healer, whether it is going to workshops, learning skills, or just practicing these things with a safe person, with a friend or family member, someone that we can try these things and get better at these skills with. Because what's so important is that we do this work on ourselves so that we can start to model these skills. Even if we have to do it awkwardly to begin with, to have the courage to go and develop these skills as quickly as we possibly can, so that we can begin to model them for our kids and can begin to show them what it means to have these experiences and to interact with life this way. The third major challenge I've run into is that of making mistakes. Coming from the background that I come from, I am a perfectionist. I know I am. I don't like making mistakes. I want to get everything just so. But as a human being, and especially as a parent, it is inevitable that we are going to make mistakes. It's just part of life. And so that can be really challenging, because as a parent, you want to do things, the right things for your kids. And then when we get it wrong, it can trigger shame and recrimination. It can strengthen this need to have everything perfectly just so. And so it's really helped me when dealing with this realization that I am messing things up. I am getting things wrong. I am putting my foot in. I'm saying the wrong things. I'm upsetting my kids. I'm not getting it perfect. To understand that what matters is what I do 95% of this time. This idea of good enough parenting that I came across in Pete Walker's book on complex PTSD, and I'll link to that for you. But this idea that our kids will be okay if what we do most of the time is okay. We're not trying to be perfect parents, we're trying to be good enough parents. And that's really helped me to cut myself some slack as I do make mistakes in this parenting journey, because after all, I haven't done this before. I'm still learning, I'm still trying to figure it out. Another skill I've had to learn around this challenge is that of learning to apologize to my kids. And this has been really challenging for me, because I know when I started recognizing that I had situations where I needed to apologize, where I'd done something inappropriate, I'd behaved in a way that I wasn't comfortable with, that I needed to go back to them and apologize. But every part of me did not want to do that. I did not want to admit I'd made a mistake. I did not want to appear weak. I did not want to speak those words to them. But I recognized how important it was, both for me and for them, that I had the courage to actually voice that, to say, I'm sorry, I behaved this way. It wasn't my best behavior. I'm sorry I did that. It's not what I intended to do. And it gave them feedback that I recognized that what I'd done wasn't the best behavior it could have been, and that I was working on it to improve myself. But it also modeled for them what it means to recognize your own mistakes, own them, and actually communicate that to other people. And the last challenge, one of the big challenges I ran across and still deal with to this day around parenting while healing, is that of trusting myself. When I first split with my parents many years ago, one of the first skills I really had to learn was to trust my own perceptions. And I struggled with that, to trust that what I was seeing in the world, that what I was perceiving from the world was something that I could trust. And as a parent, trusting our sense of what's right for our kids can be really challenging. Learning to trust that inner voice, and not that nasty inner voice, not the one that tells us what we're doing wrong, what we should be doing differently, all the criticisms and judgments. I'm not talking about that voice. I'm talking about that inner sense in us, that gut sense of what is right for our kids, what the right choices are for them, because we know them best. What will actually lift them up, what will make them feel seen and heard and loved, what is it that we can do that will actually help them to thrive, and trusting our sense of that. I remember when my first child was a baby, I tried the cot thing. I really did. I knew what I was supposed to do, but there was a part of me, a very loud part of me, thank goodness, that just screamed at me that this was not right. And I trusted that, and I'm glad that I did, but it was very difficult to trust that. I didn't know if I could trust that. And so I had to make choices that weren't particularly rational or logical, that went against what conventional recommendations were. But that's what felt right to me. And so learning to trust that sense in ourselves that we have of what is the best for our kids, that can be really challenging as a parent when you are dealing with healing yourself from your past. So I hope that you can see from this that it is totally, absolutely normal to struggle to be the parent that you want to be while you are still healing your own issues. But it's also the only way to break the cycle. You have to make different choices. You have to do the work to change yourself so that you can create a better future for you and for your family. But as you navigate this incredibly challenging situation of being a parent and healing at the same time, you're going to want to avoid these emotional mistakes. Got questions? Comment below, and I'll see you in the next one.